Argentina. So our first plenary speaker this morning is Dr. Bibiana MacLeod. I first met Bibiana when we were both working in Haiti, where she was working with Medical Ambassadors International, supporting their community health evangelism work. At the time, I was a beneficiary of the work she was doing with her amazing Haitian coworkers, as my organization had community members trained in community health evangelism by her and her staff. I personally saw the impact of this work made in local rural communities we walked alongside. Bibiana and her husband Sandy have worked as coordinators in South America and in the Caribbean for Medical Ambassadors International. Sandy and she are now technical advisors of disaster response, Orality, and the 1,000 Days program. She is a lifelong learner in experience and in academics. She is a medical doctor originally from Argentina and is due to graduate in August 2020 with a master's in Humanitarian Disaster Leadership from Wheaton College. Bibiana, thank you for being willing to join us today and to share with us. Join me in welcoming her.
Thank you. Good morning. Scottish descendants. I saw somebody drinking mate there this morning and I got so excited. Yes. Yeah, I'll go to you on the break. Why will they invite a medical doctor to an agricultural conference? It's amazing what God is doing these days. Just to tell you what am I going to talk about, some of you have heard of Che, maybe have a faint idea of what it is like, but I will describe it briefly, and then I want to show you what do I see 25 years later. And if I don't finish everything that I want to say this morning, I was praying and I said, Lord, how can I compress it? What is important? This afternoon, when those that want to hear more, we have the meet the speaker, I will try to complete whatever I don't have the time to talk about. So in general, I want to talk about my personal story or my journey, key essentials that I felt that you have to have it in your mind when you enter this process, the main themes of Che, and then I want to share with you something that I did this, actually, I filmed one of your co-workers, Francilo, a few years back, and I put together a video with somebody from my church so you can hear the people 25 years later. What has happened when we started Che, and what do you see today? And then have your conclusions. Is this a right tool? Does this work? Is this the final product or the finished product that I'm looking for as a missionary? And then we will have a few words to conclude. So first, my story. Argentinian doctor sent in 1989 to Haiti with no affiliation with any organization because we Latin Americans know how to do things better. Wow. So we had no money, and we said, if you want to live with the people, you have to have no money. If you go with all these resources, how are you going to really make a difference if you want to live with the people? So I went to Bible school and I had it all clear, and I arrived to Haiti and there is all this bunch of Americans. So I needed to learn English first and then work in a missionary hospital. And then I didn't like to live in a compound, and I have all these ideals of how a missionary should live, and then I go to the rural clinic, and finally I am where I wanted to be. And it broke my heart that my patients will not listen to me and they will not change their behavior. So they will keep coming back with the same diseases, the diarrhea, the malnutrition. We gave classes, we preached the gospel, people came to Christ, but they were going back to their villages and life went on, and I kept having the same people coming back to my clinic. So that really unsettled my heart. And I started to read more about, okay, what other missionaries were doing. I started to listen also to the Americans because they had a lot of experience that I didn't have. And I was in that search for 4 years, learning the language, learning the culture, working as a medical doctor, but still not sure what I was doing there. And one day I was invited to translate from Spanish to Creole in the Dominican Republic this Community Health Evangelism. And that changed my whole approach to what I was doing there in Haiti. But there are two key essentials that I want to talk about before I go into what Che is. I feel that if there are no signs of spiritual and physical search in a community, you don't know if the Holy Spirit has been working there, and that's one of the signs. When you enter a community and you start seeing things that show you that the Holy Spirit has been there before you got there. Because, of course, we come with this idea that we are the Holy Spirit. But those are signs and evidence that something is happening there, and then we come alongside to walk with them. The other one that is an essential is what is your attitude when you go and work with the people, because in that process, the first one to be transformed is you, and you may have heard that. But I want to share with you something I wrote this morning. When you're working with the community, God will bring to the surface things about yourself you did not care or did not want or did not know you had and needed to deal with. It's like marriage. I felt that in my relationship with my husband, he brings up sometimes things that I really don't want to talk about, but I have to deal with. It's the same with the community. So are you ready to enter this process of transformation yourself? Because you have to deal with a lot of your own baggage when you are working in community health evangelism or in any development work. Other essentials, prayer. I cannot be too technical because I will be lying to you if I say that Che works because it's a good set of tools. There has to be a lot of prayer. I recruit intercessors in every trip right now. And when I was in Haiti, I recruited intercessors because it is a spiritual battle. You are, I don't know how many of you read Darrell Miller's book, Discipling the Nations. But it talks a lot about animism and the structures, the powers that are in a culture. And it's in my own culture, it's in your culture. And we are in a spiritual battle, and we need to pray from the very beginning. Our people that are sending us, the people in the community, the churches we work with. The other presence is a champion. You have the privilege to have that champion here in this crowd. I will not make him stand up, but he's very shy. But one thing that you need also is to find in the community those that will carry on with any vision that God has given to you. And that is a secret for success in community development. You are not that person if you're a foreigner. There has to be a local champion, and he recruits other champions, and I will talk about it. I have Jose, who is here. He's the coordinator for Che in Haiti. We also have champions from other countries here, but today I'm focusing on Haiti because we are talking about 25 years later. What does it look like 25 years later in the country where I started, though we are spread in other places? So what is Che? And how does it work? So I'll give you a little bit of a background, but Friday I'll do a little promotion. We are having a vision seminar with an introduction to the tools, and you will be taught or facilitated not only by myself, but the people that are in the field doing this with their people in Spanish and in Creole, and I will be mostly translating. But anyway, Che stands for Community Health Evangelism. This was developed by a guy, Stan Rowland, who was a hospital administrator that went to Africa, worked with Campus Crusade, and it was in the time of Alma Ata, where there was promised health for everyone, and the community health workers were a la mode. And he started in Kenya and in Uganda. And through years of improving the set of tools, then he came to medical ambassadors and trained a bunch of people that were medical professionals in the Philippines and in Guatemala. And then he came to Haiti, and he coached us along with other people, Dr. Hugo Gomez in Guatemala. But it started spreading really rapidly because it's a set of tools. Now, I was talking with a German missionary. I work with the Guarani in northeastern Argentina now in oral, adapting all this material to oral cultures. And he said, Bibiana, I hate methods. But I don't know why I like Che, because it's a method and it's a set of tools, and we spiritual people do not like people to tell us there is this strategy and you put it in a box and it will work. And I understand that, and I respect that. But I'm a medical doctor, and if I did not have a method to diagnose people, I will be a very poor professional. Teachers have methods. Jesus had a method. How did he approach people? Facilitation, there is a skill that we all want to have when we are in communities, is a method. So I am here just to tell you that this is one of many methods. It's not the gospel. And I make the difference because we fans of Che sometimes talk so highly about it that it sounds like we have switched the gospel by Che, and it's not that. It's just a Christian group that has seen the results of applying facilitation skills. We base our training in Paulo Freire, who was a Brazilian teacher that appreciated not only talking with people, but learning with people, from people. I don't know how many of you have read Pedagogy of the Oppressed. It's a book where he delivers this strategy. And one of his key things is you pose the problem. As a facilitator, you ask what is happening and why is happening. Why do you think that this is happening? So you throw the question to the people and they come with the answers. And the other thing is that you believe that they have the answer. That's the basic thing about facilitation skills. You are starting with them because they have the answer. And you respect them because you feel that they have a lot to say and they have been oppressed by a system that pours information in schools and in churches and everything, and the people are just receiving the information. We want to break that way of teaching. So that's Paulo Freire. That's one of the strategies that Che has. And how does it work? It's community organization. So we propose that they will get organized, being in the church or community-based. It depends on the cultural setting. We respect culture. We say we have to adapt it. I am not going to adapt it. You that are a person from that culture, you have to adapt it. I'll give you the essentials, and then you modify what needs to be modified to fit in your own culture. In the Guarani, for example, there is a chief, and there is a community organization. I'm not going to come with a different one to impose it to them. We will see how it works to follow these principles that I will show you in your structure. So it's community organization where we have the community, they listen, then they choose representatives, they form a committee, and that committee chooses volunteers that will visit homes with Bible stories or inductive method, spiritual teaching and physical teaching that they decide what they want to learn. So it's all based on how do we provoke them to ask the question, say, okay, what is wrong? How can we fix it? What do we want to learn? So that's basically Che, and I want to show you what I mean by method. I just said, okay, let's make an acrostic so it's easier. Because these are core values that we, when we say you have to adapt, yes, you have to adapt, but you cannot break this. If you break these core values, then you don't have Che, you have something else. That's always, I say, if many organizations have said, okay, let me take one piece of it and add it to what I'm doing. That's fine. Please don't call it Che, because that's not Che. You just have borrowed, like we have done, a law like PLA, a participatory learning appraisal. We use it, and we will show it on Friday. But that's a tool that we are using. But we have to be very clear of what what are the definitions so people don't get confused. The first value is multiplication. What we mean is, we always have this lesson of if you teach somebody one thing and then you go and teach somebody else, you are adding. That's addition. But multiplication is when I teach with the idea that that person will be the multiplier in others. So when we started with the community, but we don't go to the next community. We let them go to the next community, to their cousin, their uncles, and it's very organic multiplication. We don't just plan it. We don't have a log frame where we say, okay, this year we will be here and next year we will be there. We'll see how it goes and who is the multiplier, because sometimes you think it's your facilitator, but it's a committee member that had a neighbor that was interested and he goes and starts teaching. So we start training the committee member to go and do this work somewhere else. The E for equal dignity. How do we treat people in the community? How do we treat the people that are the facilitators? Do we understand that they have the same capacity that you have? You just develop them to the maximum. Tools, a good set of tools, a clear strategy, able to adapt, flexible, but well-defined. I told you that we borrow PLA. We borrow from the disciple movement, all the servant leadership series. There is a whole module of 18 lessons. So we are constantly learning from other organizations and incorporating and seeing how does this fit. Now recently I come from Miami where they gave us the Jesus film in backpacks. Have you seen those backpacks? You have the whole thing in the bag, like the screen, a solar panel, is autonomous. You can go to every village and show the Jesus film. I say, well, is that development? Well, my friend Tiros from Kenya, he does the awareness seminar we call when we are in the community talking about all this, what do you see as your problems and how do you want to develop? And at the end, everybody carries their chairs to the square and they watch the movie. And there are many opportunities where you can use this equipment from the Jesus Movie organization. So we incorporate, we collaborate, we listen. Holistic understanding. Well, today is very common knowledge, but when I was 18 or 19, integration was a bad word in Latin America because it meant that you belong to the liberation theology. If you talk about liberating the village and social justice, it was not something that the church was willing to speak about. So we make a point to say we integrate physical and spiritual because the gospel is, well, the whole Bible is a holistic approach to life. Recently we were talking about creation and the care of creation as a mission of the church. I never heard that before. It's only in the last 5 years that we started to talk about our mission as creation care. How could we have missed such an important part of the gospel? So we are constantly learning that there are more things than just inviting somebody for Jesus to be his personal savior. There are implications in the community of salvation and a mission that is much larger than just the individual. Ownership by locals. We have different strategies, and especially the question of money. So the local people will be the ones that direct the program and not the outsider, and it will continue to be there even when you remove yourself. And development instead of relief. That's a big, big one for us. We don't assist and we don't want to create dependency. So from the very beginning, we have a game and a drama that we do with the community that is very fun because somebody has to carry somebody across a river. I don't know if you have seen that play in other organizations. And that moment, the people say, yeah, I don't want to be carried by anybody. So we want people to say, no, thank you. Don't give me that money. That's not what I need today. That's a process. That's not just one drama or one talk. But we insist that we are not going to put in the community anything that comes from the outside that will create dependency. So those are principles of our CHE that is a method. So I want to bring you the people that we have been working with. This is Chipi Chipi. Jose knows her well. She taught us a song. I met her song before I met her. Interesting, I don't know if in other countries it happens, but I learned that when you plant churches, when people start to make their own songs, that's a good sign of autonomy, and that, okay, it's one of the evidence that it has taken roots. Haitians make songs out of everything. So you will hear another lady that always is making songs of our teachings, or sometimes they learn something, they make the song and they come and teach it to me, so I can teach it to midwives, for example, in the Northeast. So Chipi Chipi has a family of 4, but most recently she adopted a child. I don't think I may have time to tell you the story. She have attended a training for midwives that we do in Mombin, Crochu, and somebody told her that a baby had been born the night before, but it was so small. The lady had been 6 months pregnant, so it was a preterm, and the lady was mentally disabled, and nobody knew who the father was. So they had done the delivery, but they had left the baby on a bench to die because they said it will not survive. We are in the middle of nowhere. The closest hospital is Henge, and 2 hours by motorbike. So in the morning, she hears that the guy that digs the graves in the cemetery had come to get the baby, but because the baby was still breathing, he refused to bury him. And she says, this is crazy, this is not happening. So she goes and ties the umbilical cord because she doesn't have anything to cut it with. So she just tied it with the placenta attached, wraps the baby, and goes to the hospital with the baby. The baby survived. So I call him Lazarus, but his name really is Jetson, and she's raising him. Now, if you know the Haitian culture, if you raise a child, you raise the child to be a slave, and it's a reste avec. That is a different culture, and it's another topic. But in our Che team, I have 3 different people that have adopted children from their community, which is really not that common, to treat them as their own. And that's what she's doing. We went into her house this month of July, and you can see that she has, the kitchen is always outside the house, but she has raised the fireplace, and she has a dish rack, all the things that she has learned through the years with Che. That's a very typical house of a Che person. She's a facilitator, she has her own garden, different projects going on. So the idea, that's her family, and Jetson is the one that is in the dad's arms. What happens in one home? I was talking about community organization. One home, one village at a time. That means that these are things that are happening in one home because somebody's visiting that home with these stories, Bible stories that they learn by heart. Adoption happens in a home. Gardens happen in a home. The children learn to do things as part of Che. There is one group that is saving money. And the children come, the parents give them a little coin or something, and they have an internal savings group, and then they have projects, or they can borrow money. This is something that the grown-ups have done, and it was totally out of my league, so I told Jose, don't do it because I don't want money. And when money comes into the equation, it will be corruption or everything. But he knows his people better, so they got training, and they know all the formulas, and the community comes by groups of 10. Every week, they come together with a little money, and then they borrow money from this bank that they create with an interest that they have decided how much it is. I don't know if you know the technique. It's called internal savings, and it's multiplying in the northeast of Haiti, and now the children are doing it. There is no money coming from the outside. It's just their own. And then if they have a school expense or something they want to do in the house or a business they want to grow, they do it from their savings group. The 1,000 days birth attendants, what happened, and you will hear one of our trainers say it, we started to see malnutrition after 20 years, and we didn't understand why. If malnutrition has been not eradicated, but much improved, we started to see it again. And so what we did is a school, not school, but health screening, checking the children again and taking blood, doing anemia, found that more than 20% in one community had anemia, children under 5. We presented to them, and they decided, okay, let's do mothers' clubs. And they come and weigh the children and teach the moms. That's what we call the 1,000 days program, because we focus on the first 2 years of life, and in pregnancy, that is 1,000 days. That's where the World Health Organization is focusing now, saying that if there is malnutrition, especially stunting, in that period of time, there is brain damage and learning disabilities and many other things that you can prevent just by focusing there. So as part of that, we started to train the birth attendants, because the World Health Organization doesn't want births to be happening in homes anymore. They want everybody to go to the hospital. Good luck. 3 hours walk in the mountains, in labor. Okay, move to the village 2 weeks earlier. Where? Who do I pay to stay there? Those are things that make me really angry, because the order comes from the top down, and the hospital has their hands tied because they have no budget to train birth attendants, because it's not part of World Health Organization's plan. That's when the church can come alongside. And we have a church in Utah that helps us do that. We go to the hospital and we ask, how can we help you? We see all these women and men in Haiti. Many men are husbands. I don't know how to, but most of them are men. It's interesting, and they trust them, but they have no training. When you go to them and say, okay, how did you get your training? They say, God trained me. Interesting enough, many of them are voodoo practitioners. So there is a lot of cultural and spiritual things happening related to the birth of what do they do with the placenta, what do they do with the baby when it's born. What an opportunity. So we come together, and our CHE trainers have a little bit of training on pregnancy, so they do some of the lessons, and we doctors and a midwife from the US comes and does a little bit of what to do in a malpresentation, or how to identify eclampsia and other things, and then when do you say, okay, this is enough, this is not my case, I have to run to the hospital. So that's our 1,000 days program. That's what it includes. And then every month they are weighing the children and measuring them and trying to follow the World Health Organization's pattern, but with a little bit of a deviation here and there. And the internal savings I told you. So now you will listen to our people. So I will sit down and then I will give you the conclusions. So.
Maman yo pas négliger prendre soin petit nous parce que c'est un bagay qui bon les nous prend soin petit nous c'est un gros avantage si nous pas négliger faire ça bon Dieu a béni nous si nous pas négliger faire ça bon Dieu a béni nous
Là, on fait manger dans fou ça, il pas prend en pile bois.
Dis bonsoir.
Bonsoir.
Qui chanouye?
Bonsoir.
Bon, moi-même c'est Jean-Baptiste Riger. J'ai commencé à programmer ça depuis l'année 1998. Et jusqu'à nos jours, moi j'ai milité là-dedans. Et c'est un programme vraiment remis en pile parce qu'il y a en pile connaissance dans ça que je ne connais pas. Et en plus, tout il y a une connaissance spirituelle. Et dans la connaissance spirituelle, là, il aide une collaboration avec prochain, avec l'autre monde. En plus, ça a vraiment intéressé tout pour aller à l'église et ça montre tout comment enseigner l'autre la Bible. Ça fait me ça en pile. Et dans la partie physique là, bon, c'est on merveille. Côté moi apprendre en pile bagaille. J'ai une connaissance de prévention maladie, surtout dans la famille, les petits gens, qui a joué dans la tête, pas boire d'eau traitée, qui a une fièvre, qui a mal logé, un peu d'autres maladies qui peuvent venir. Mais avec le programme EKS, nous connaissons comment nous pouvons faire prévention pour nous aider. Si nous ne connaissons pas, on va compléter.
Bon, pour moi-même, ça m'a complété. Mon cas de EKS fait un pile changement dans la vie. Parce que l'aime pour qu'on a EKS, une série de bagages, il n'y a pas de jamais connaître. Tant que l'aime, mon a fait des protections, mon a des vaccins, pour moi-même, je me dis, côté chaque mois, mon a une protection, mon a des vaccins, ça. L'aime venir entrer dans EKS, moi, ça sont des qui très important pour mon a marché dans la petite toute dose vaccin net. Je regarde encore dans le cadre de santé. Je te dis, mon ka boire de il n'y a pas de côté, c'est bloc mon bail ça mon a bien. J'aime venir dans EKS, je viens commencer pour information, je viens ouais ça par un bagage qui est bien fait parce que faut gagner bonne santé, c'est pour gagner bonne santé, c'est vous même qui pour chercher bonne santé pour corps. C'est pas monde qui peut chercher.
Parce que je n'ai pas de connaissance sur santé.
The CHE program really developed me because I didn't have any knowledge about health.
C'est grâce à la formation EKS et puis moi-même je travaille dans le prénatal tout.
And thanks to CHE program, and I also worked in the prenatal part of the program.
Avant EKS, tu connais un peu maman petite dans zone là qui te connait mourir avec maman mourir par moi éclampsie.
Long time ago, we used to see a lot of moms dying. One of the causes was when they were delivering the baby, they developed eclampsia.
C'est après formation EKS et puis nous venons inviter matron dans la zone qui compte faire accouchement et puis nous avons formation.
And during the CHE process, we invited the midwives to come to training.
Et puis depuis que nous avons formation matron, nous avons formation nous-mêmes, nous avons formation, nous invitons formation, nous faisons formation pour eux.
So since the midwives got the training and we, the CHE people, also got the training,
Moins de monde mourir dans la communauté.
less children are dying in the community,
Et moins de maman tout mourir dans l'accouchement.
and less moms are dying during delivery,
Par un programme EKS.
thanks to the CHE program.
Et puis l'église n'était toujours pas remis ensemble avec l'autre, l'ont invité dans quelques programmes. Et puis c'est pas dans l'église par eux, ils n'ont pas venu.
And churches used to just want their own programs, and if another church invited them, they will never come together.
Mais cependant, EKS vient faire éthique biblique
And then with CHE, we started a Bible study
avec tous les leaders dans la communauté.
with all the leaders of the community.
On y a tous les leaders qui mettent tête ensemble.
And all the leaders come together.
Il n'y a pas de différence entre les leaders
And
avec
there
les
is no
leaders.
difference now between one leader and the other.
Et puis dans le programme, là, nous avons différents leaders qui sont dans différentes églises qui sont ensemble dans le programme. Là, sans
And
problème.
now in the CHE program, we have all kinds of church leaders involved.
Et puis, Moringa, je ne connais rien de.
And I didn't know
Matzah,
anything about this moringa tree that you see here. This is a moringa tree here. And the little ones, or the little leaves, the little shades here.
C'est EKS qui te donne la formation.
The CHE people invited me to a training,
Et puis, depuis que je suis dans la formation,
and after I left the training,
et puis, le directeur aussi, moi, et quelques graines dans benzolive.
Jose, that is the CHE coordinator, gave me some seeds,
Et puis, moi, fait pépinière.
and I did a little nursery with them.
Moi, j'ai gagné au moins 400 pieds.
I had 400 trees.
Ici. Après ça, moi, bâti petit forêt ça.
And so I'm starting to have a little forest here, as you see.
Et puis, me partager avec voisins par 10, par 15, par 20.
Okay, and I share with my neighbors by 10s and 20s.
Et puis, c'est comme ça, je environ séparé n'importe 300 pieds.
Plus de ça, moi-même, je dis, madame, je dis, mais il y a un bagage qui est important pour moi apprendre EKS, de montrer comment on va vivre en famille. Ça a aidé à connaître comment on traiter madame, comment on traiter Timounio, comment on vivre pour nous rester en harmonie, pour chercher union dans le là, et pour chercher façon pour nous capables de gérer foyer, gérer famille là, sans moun la rue, pas besoin de connaître problème nous gagnons. Entre nous-mêmes, nous résoudre problème nous résoudre problème Timounio. Et puis tout, en plus, le programme EKS là, montrer me planifier. Et auparavant, pas de comprendre la planification, c'est pour moi une débat de valeur. Mais à la fin, comme commencer à faire formation, pour planification, je commence à pratiquer moi-même personnel, moi ça lui aide avec famille et ça vient bon plus engouement pour apprendre plus, pour montrer l'autre pour aider à planifier, ça capable permettre d'aider à sortir dans la situation que vous avez, puis capable de gagner et progrès pour l'avenir pour demain. Tout parce que je gagne petit sac sous moi. C'était un petit monde depuis le fait, il était pas j'aime gagner un bon poids sur lui. Même les là à l'hôpital, il pèse lui, poids pas j'aime normal. Ça a toujours un problème parce qu'à chaque fois je regarde on les gros, on les petit et puis aller à l'hôpital avec lui, et poids pas j'aime normal. Mais à la fin que je viens entrer dans le programme 1000 jours, je commence à suivre quelques formations, je commence à suivre quelques étapes de qualité de développer physiquement, spirituellement. Je viens découvrir un problème là-dedans, c'était chagrin. Ça qui fait chagrin, c'est parce que moi-même, j'aime sortir, m'aller faire nos activités, maman déplacer là dans l'autre activité. Il manquait jouer une affection parents pour chita ensemble avec eux, pour jouer, parler ensemble avec lui. Et ça devient faire le chagrin. Même l'autre petit monde, mais l'autre qui est ensemble avec lui là, il n'a pas une affection qu'il a besoin exactement. Mais à la fin, que nous devons commencer à mieux jouer, nous commencer à pratiquer les leçons physiques. Bon, nous venons créer plus de temps pour lui, pour nous donner plus d'affection, pour nous rester ensemble avec lui. Et puis bon, tout de suite, nous il commence à évoluer, qu'on est là, même s'il n'est pas gros fille, mais il a un poids qui est raisonnable avec l'âge. Et là, à l'hôpital, il n'a pas dit nous anémie encore. Ça, c'est une grosse victoire pour nous jouer dans le programme 1000 jours.
L'homme a objectif, il veut protéger pour lui pas malade. Parce que la santé, c'est une richesse qui saute dans la bonté. Prends soin de mon yo, maman, pour yo pas malade attendez. Prends soin de mon yo, papa, pour yo pas malade.
This does not mean that they got there. We tend to show only the good things, and I still have 17 minutes, right? So I will tell you what did not work. I have it on the list here. It's a long list. No, first of all, before we go into that, are they there yet? That's a question that you see all that and say, wow, this is so interesting. Did you see how agriculture integrates with health and financial and family? Yesterday, Cecilia in her workshop was saying about empowering women. And this is one of the shortcomings of empowering women. You empower women and they leave the house. And the husband left the house too. And the children are in the house cared by other children. So how do you find a balance? And how do you talk about these things in the community? That's how you have to really, it's so complex, you have to really integrate everything and find answers in the Bible and discuss with the people. And then when we found a little girl with low weight, and we talk about the different aspects of 1,000 Day. When the UNICEF and everybody talks about malnutrition and they put all these complexity things, it's a very secular mindset. The emotional part is not there. We Christians learn that we can pray for our baby in our womb, right? Have we taught that in the community, that child is your spiritual responsibility today? Have you talked with the mothers how to speak softly to the baby and pray with the baby every night? Would that make a difference in their nutritional status? It made it for this girl. So that's why, yes, UNICEF and World Health Organization, I love everything that I learned from them, but we have to just let the Bible read us and tell, okay, what else is missing there? And this is something that we learned. I learned it last year doing the 1,000 days. I didn't know it before. That's why I am in that process of transformation. So are they there yet? What do we have to show 25 years later? We have to show you people in the process of transformation, just like I am a person in the process of transformation. So is it effective? Yes, it's a very effective tool. What did I do wrong? First of all, I went to this training, and I had been working in 3 communities based on MAP international teachings and some books that I had read, but I didn't have really a methodology. So when they taught me Che, I wanted to go back to my 3 villages and do it. And my coach, who was Dr. Hugo Gomez, said, you should start with 1. And I said, no. How can I decide which one of the 3 I'm not going to work anymore? That was a lot of energy for a beginner to start with multiple communities. And this is one challenge that I have when we train other organizations, and they are in multiple communities, so they want to start all over the place at once, instead of starting with 1 as a sample, as a model. You invest in that, you put all your energy in that, and then after 2 or 3 years, move on to a next community. That was my first mistake. Just to let you know, of all the other communities, people started not to come to the meetings, and the trainers told me, Bibiana, we cannot keep going, and nothing is happening. So we just stuck with 1, and it was our first success story in La Bruyere in northern Haiti. They multiply later, and that's the thing is, one word that it gives me is scale up. Everybody wants to scale up. I cannot imagine Jesus telling them to plant a church and scale up. To me, it's organic, it's not planned. So scaling up always involves a planning of how many people will do 5 communities each, and these 5 communities will go 5 communities. So at the end of the 3 years, we will have 5 times 5, 15, maybe 25 new communities, because we are scaling up. I don't think that Che works that way. I'm sorry. This is Bibiana. This is not medical ambassadors talking, but I don't think that this is how it works, because what I've seen through the years, and Haiti has 70 villages right now doing Che. We started with La Bruyere, then a neighboring village, La Soudre, then Jose came from Mombin Crochu and said, can we go and explore Mombin Crochu? We did. We started with 1, and then they multiplied. It was not part of our plan. We just invest in the people, and then God does the rest. Entering the community was another thing. Is the process is that they teach you how much time you should, not how much, but all the things that should happen entering in relationship with the community, and how to identify the leaders, the movers and shakers, the influencers, and that takes time. And when you have budgeted 1 year, and you have to prove something at the end of the year, and you have put that you want to have a committee form at the end of 1919, and that has not happened, you are tempted to go and choose the 5 people you like the most, or the ones that speak better English, or the ones that have power, and you are the Che committee now. And we say, no, the people have to choose the committee, but if they don't understand what Che is, or where are we going, and what are the principles, they will choose wrong. And then the whole thing is ruined, just because you were in a hurry. So we say, no, don't skip the process of entering the community until you feel that the people are ready to go into the next level. And all good Westerners say, okay, how much time? 9 months, 12 months? The manual for North Americans or Westerners says 9 to 12 months, but in reality, it depends. In Argentina, right now, we have been 3 years entering the community with ups and downs. We started, the chief expelled the missionary, who was a Bolivian Guarani girl. We thought that she would be accepted, but for many reasons. One is that she's friends with a white. The chief didn't like her, and only now, after 3 years, she's allowed to have a house in the community, to spend 3 nights a week in the community. So how can you put it on a manual? It depends on so many factors. So entering the community was one of the biggest challenges, and if we skip it, you fail. Choosing the community. In one of the trainings, we explained that there are factors. The community has to be ready. One, spiritually, you see openness spiritually. The presence of a champion. The closeness to a health facility, so they will not be so desperate for health services that they will not think of prevention. So there are many things that we assess to know if communities are ready or not. So choosing the community, and I have chosen several times the wrong one, and you have to walk away at one point because it's not working, and you are spending a lot of resources into a village that is not responding. The lack of collaboration. Only recently we have learned to collaborate with other organizations present in the same village, like World Vision, Compassion, and some of these organizations do relief, so it's a big challenge on how to work together with somebody that has different mentality. The other thing that showed in the video is that people forget. 25 years later, there was malnutrition again. Why do you think that if we help with malnutrition 25 years ago, now they have malnutrition again? Yes, you said that? One generation later, what has happened? The person that went to visit that home, that little girl that didn't hear because she was playing with mud or with her brothers, is the one that now has a baby, and the mom has not passed on the information to the children. So what I realized is that we were doing multiplication horizontally very well, neighbor to neighbor or to other country, to other villages, but we had failed in passing on the need of doing multiplication on a vertical way. And in order for this to be generation to generation, something has to happen in the household that the mom considers that this teaching has to be incorporated in the family traditions and stories. So you have to create more stories that moms will tell to the children. So these mothers' clubs are a good way to start, but we have to rethink. And this challenges us because it's constantly saying, okay, what did I do wrong? How can I do it better? How can we discuss this with the locals and change? And we are in that process. We don't have it all figured out yet. Our attitude that we are learning, I am a doctor. It will be so easy for me to have that position in the village. I come to teach you health because I know better. I went to school in Argentina. I did my residency. What do you know about uterus and ovaries and eclampsia? So this attitude, I want to learn from them. I want to ask them, okay, how will you teach this? Will you teach it with your own words? But this is the material, and that's the dialogue. Finally, let it go. Do it with open hands. I cannot hold on to the privilege of teaching in communities because I will damage them. I need to let Jose and the team and the others. So I have to back up until I disappear. Are you ready for that? To disappear? To not be the, in Spanish is protagonista. If somebody can tell me what's the word in English, some Spanish speaking? Huh? Oh, okay. I don't go to the movies that often, so I don't know how to use that word. Yeah, I'm not the first actress. I'm not the one that has to show up. Jesus has to show up. So we cannot count this as we won, we have this. It's, wow, somebody read last night in one of the workshops, when they said we did it, you know that you have been successful. So I'm almost finished. This is what Paulo Freire said that had a lot to do with transformation. Problem posed in education, that is what we were talking about, facilitation, affirms that we are in the process of becoming as unfinished, uncompleted beings in and with a likewise unfinished reality. The unfinished character of human beings and the transformational character of reality necessitate that education be an ongoing activity. Now, I will read you Paul's version of that. 2 Corinthians 3:18 says, "But all of us are like people who have no cloth over our faces. Like mirrors, we shine with God's bright light. And he is changing us. so that we become more and more like him. We become brighter and brighter as the Lord's Spirit changes us. That's 2 Corinthians 3:18. So I want to leave you with the challenge that no matter what you are doing as a practitioner, if you're a missionary or you are just here because the topic of agriculture interests you, it's a lifetime process. It has nothing to do with just the mission field. I adopted Che as my lifestyle, with my children, with the people that I relate. I work and live in a little town in Canada, 800 people. We do Che with my husband in the town. We created a fair and a farmer's market and participate in all the social activities with this Che mentality. So it's not just because we work with the poor and we want to see transformation, but because it's a good way of living, just as a facilitator and to let God transform you through the process of working with people. So, merci en pile. Thank you very much. Muchas gracias and have a great day.